Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR, episode 278. I'm your host, Terry Ryan Jr. I'm coming at you from Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. And I'll tell you this, eastern Newfoundland, and other parts of Newfoundland, but the most serious right now, eastern Newfoundland, is where there's a lot of wildfires, okay? So I'm in Mount Pearl. I got home from an awesome trip, ball hockey trip a few days ago. I guess 4 or 5 days ago now, but anyway, today's Wednesday. The fucking smoke the last few days, and the Canada Games are happening here as we speak. Everything from javelin to kayak and to sailing. Well, you know the summer sports, right? Baseball, rugby, soccer. All the tens of thousands of people in town. So it's really unfortunate because these fires, at first they were like kind of off in the distance and people weren't paying much attention. And then they started to hit like Kingston, Carbonear, Harbor Grace, which is about, a lot of you know I played senior hockey for the Conception Bay Seabees. That's what that is, like the Conception Bay North area. And people started losing their houses, cabins, things. Knock on wood. I don't know of any fatalities yet. I hope there haven't been. I don't want to be insensitive. One started in Paddy's Pond just a few days ago, which is real close to town, basically is. I think it counts as St. John's. It's on the, if you've been to St. John's or you've been to Newfoundland, it's like, it's as soon as you get on the highway to go towards Western Newfoundland or any other Western part of Newfoundland, Paddy's Pond's the first pond you hit. So that's where the fire happened up there. Then in the last few days, honestly, it has been where I am in Mount Pearl, like we are sitting right in a campfire. Like you couldn't get eyes burning, breath, 1 minute of taking breaths, and your bronchitis kind of feel, that's a bad way to put it. Not everybody has bronchitis. That's the closest thing I can compare it to bronchitis, when it hurts in your lungs almost, and you start coughing stuff up, and that really shouldn't be there. Like it's bronchitis without having it. At least for me, the eyes burning out of the head. And I also don't want to underestimate what people are going through, but we only had to deal with the smoke. Where I am in Mount Pearl, any fire from any direction would have to go a long way, unless it started right next to me. But I'm saying anything that starts like in the forest kind of, right? I'm pretty embedded in the midst of how, even though I'm kind of off on my own, it's just the geography of it for any fire like the Paddy's Pond fire to make its way here. There would have to be a lot of tragedy happen before that. So knock on wood, thank God that didn't happen. But the smoke, holy fuck, man. And I can't imagine, a bunch of years ago, I remember doing a fundraiser for Fort McMurray for the wildfires, and I didn't realize what they were going through. And I don't want to downplay it. They probably lost a lot more people than we are, whatever, or houses or real estate, money, damage, whatever. I'm just saying that last night and the night before, honestly felt like I would just had my face next to a fire and I was just breathing in. It was fucking 30 odd degrees too, which doesn't normally happen here. We're not supposed to have rain till Friday. But the only thing to do was to shut all the windows and turn on the fan. I don't have AC in here. Last night it was just fucking hot, the fans, but I couldn't open the windows because you couldn't breathe. And then my neighbor comes up to me today, well, a few houses down, and she says, I never even thought about glass before. I'm like, what glass? What's that going to do? But obviously it heats up, acts like a magnifying glass, and a lot of fires start for that reason. So we're a girl on our street. Yeah, by the way, watch your solar lights. So I got a bunch of solar lights stuck into the ground. I was like, why? What are they going to do? Not thinking. She's like, hey, I was in the backyard and a fire started in my backyard. I'm like, what? She said, luckily I was back there. I was just back there making, whatever preparations or whatever she was doing in her backyard. And yes, preparations. People were like taking pictures of their stuff for insurance purposes. We really didn't know. The whole sky, man, it looked like Armageddon. So again, these are still going on in other parts of Newfoundland. We're very close to home too. This one was right on top of us. But anyway, she said, yeah, fire started from my solar lights. Good thing I was back there. I went, what are you fucking talking about? Which brings me to my next question, or my question. Like, I know it's hot for Newfoundland. And I get now, I never thought about it. People saying, sparks from ATVs, watch that kind of thing. And I understand that a lot of people flipped out. Fucking relax. There's mostly people from other places. Newfoundlanders are pretty good with it. Yes, there's a reason that they want you to stay off the ATVs. And I saw people like really, we had a few people show up here that I guess were part of the convoy in Ottawa. Not all of that was bad, of course. People needed to voice some things, but some of it is just people looking to start something. Anyway, a couple people came here apparently, and you guys got your fucking rights taken away. You're not allowed to fish. No, we are allowed to fish. There's lots of fishing happening. It's Newfoundland. The areas that the water bombers have to get the water, they don't want you to fish there. That makes sense. They don't want you smoking in the woods. They don't want you starting campfires. Yes, for a fucking reason. There's like 71 fires, 4 out of control. People here are fine. I love these fucking people on Facebook taking a stance. They're being locked up. Fuck that. Your rights. We're not being locked up. We're doing whatever the fuck we want. Outside of certain guidelines that happen when there are forest fires, that people's lives and homes and livelihoods are at stake. There's nothing here that our premier said that I'm upset with. There's not, there's fines. He's talking about in certain fucking areas, and it makes sense. If they don't put those restrictions in, some idiots will go out there anyway. But I'm telling you, the vast majority of the people here in Newfoundland are very supportive, and we thank Canada, the rest of Canada, for sending in some help. And I think the reason that part of my area got turned around today is because the Canadian government have sent in, I know, at least a few helicopters, water bombers. I just know from vaguely looking at TV. I was wondering why our fire is fucking out. Well, we had a lot of help. Anywho, so for that reason, this has been fucking chaos, but it's good to be back. I might hit Oasis in Toronto, and if any of my good buddies are listening to this, 24th and 25th, I'm trying to decide which day I'm going to go to Oasis. I'm thinking the 25th. So anyway, if you're out there and you're one of my good buddies, let me know. I'm going to have Billy McGuigan on the podcast tomorrow. Billy McGuigan is a minor leaguer, one of those guys, I think in the OHL, he had like 300 minutes one year. He used to fight a lot, got him to the O, got him to pro. Billy didn't make the NHL, but it's pretty interesting. And now he coaches and GM in Summerside for the Junior A Capitals. And that's a really intriguing league, the Maritime Junior Hockey League. And he's over here watching his daughter play some baseball. So I'm going to have Billy McGuigan on, and then we're going to get to McGrattan next week. I had McGrattan on today, or yesterday, sorry, but we couldn't stay the fuck here. Me and Penny Lane went down. Right down in Kitty Vitty, near Kitty Vitty, there's a soccer field, King George. It's our nicest soccer field in the province, King George V. And when we were there last night, there wasn't much smoke, I got to say. And that's a ways away from me. But just where it is, I'm right on the water. But anything else was just like breathing in soot. And also, listen, for those of you out there, go to terryryan.ca there if you want merch. People still ask, but go there. And I'm going to post on my stories on Friday. I got some of these jerseys that I wear to events, right? This latest one is the Sick Kids Foundation of Ontario. And they're nice jerseys and matching socks. And they're building up now. I do so many of these events, and I got so many of these jerseys. And a lot of people like them or use them. You might want them for your kid or maybe auction it off or whatever. So I'm not going to personally auction them. I don't want the money. But if you can prove to me that you donate, say, at least $100 to Sick Kids, then you can get the jersey that I'm going to put up on Friday. I'm going to put it on my stories, and one of you is going to get it. They're just taking up room in my house, and someone can use them better than I can. That's that. So one of the questions that I get an awful lot on here from you guys when you're for the listeners is I often do a rapid fire random at the end of my podcast, as you guys probably know. They've been few and far between this summer because I've been really fucking lax on the guests, but tomorrow, for example, when McGuigan comes on, I'll ask him some rapid fire randoms. And one of those is often superpower. What superpower would you pick? And I got to say, most people say flying. A lot of people say invisibility. A rare person might say elasticity. But the odd person has said travel, like go from here to say, I don't know, Australia in an instant, like beam me up Scotty type stuff. And even lesser people have said, a lesser amount of people, but some have mentioned time travel. So I think I would have always said flying just off the top of my head. But I mean, like 50 of you have asked, so I'll tell you, I've changed. I think I'd pick time travel. Because the other things would be nice, I'm not looking at it from a money-making perspective, or I'd probably be invisible. And I guess that would be shady money-making. But I'm not looking at it. If I was, I'd probably say, like, if me and my daughter were desperate and we needed money, and you asked me at that point, then it might be invisibility. Actually, time might work because I could go back and make bets on things that are about to happen, just like Biff in Biff. The fuck was Biff's last name? Biff Tarlick? Biff? Can't remember. But Biff in Back to the Future. I think it's Back to the Future 2 or 3, where he goes back and he gets the sports book and he becomes a multimillionaire because he knows what's going to happen before it happens, and he bets on those things. So that aside, okay, any money making or shadiness involving financial gain, take that out of the picture, because realistically, that would probably be what I do. But the time machine thing, and I mean like way back, we have an idea. You might watch an old movie, but we have an idea, like when video and started, you could record things. Like, I know what the Second World War looks like. Not like my grandfather did, but I have an idea, right? I don't have as much of an idea about, say, the Christian Crusades. I read about what happened. I trust the people that put it there, that most of what I'm reading is true. You can say that about video too. You could put a spin on any video and say, well, so-and-so started it, or you could change the context. But I'm looking at it. Something happened. I mean, we know in World War II, right? There's enough trusted sources. But even if there wasn't, you could look and go, okay, like people suffered one way or the other, whatever. You can see it happening on film. Anything before that, and I was explaining this to a friend on the weekend. He said, well, we can watch any movie about history. We can watch Passion of the Christ if you want to know Jesus' story from Mel Gibson's angle. You could watch Troy. You could watch the biography of Socrates, Chariots of Fire. You could watch lots of movies that depict the past, but it's as we've already interpreted it. It's someone's interpretation of an interpretation, which for the most part I trust. I mean, we're human and history is something, and even if it's skewed, I would never know. How do I know if Napoleon, was a good bowler? I don't fucking know. They could put it in a book when bowling was in a race. You know what I'm saying? Fucking whatever, javelin or however the fuck they did. Or maybe it could say that Caesar was an unbelievable swordsman and maybe he sucked, right? That's an easy thing. But you look at the Roman ruins, you see where the Sistine Chapel is. Michelangelo painted. We get all kinds of documentation. We can't see it, but we pretty sure that that's what happened. But still, I think we often lose context around those things. And I'll tell you what I mean. For example, if you're watching any video from, I don't know, the 30s, 40s, 50s, when that came in to go, like I said, you could lose the context. But if you look at the Beatles, they grew their hair long. You know that kind of led to flower power, the hippie movement, right? The Beatles, bands like that, the Mamas and the Papas and Peter, Paul and Mary, and folk came in, and Bob Dylan, and went unplugged went plugged. And there's, so we can look and we can see what people look like, the styles. We can see their what they're wearing, their appearance. But first of all, just easy layup. If you were going to do, say, the movie The Passion of the Christ, if you really wanted to be true to it, we'll never know, but I'm betting there was a lot of people that didn't have teeth. And I'm betting there was a lot of people that couldn't see shit. Because if glasses only came in, I think Benjamin Franklin invented glasses, I think. Either they weren't around till really recent history. You'd be surprised. So as soon as they came up with a telescope of any sort, you would think that glasses came next. People needed them, and even the telescope was later on than you think. But for those reasons, just think about it. When I was in grade 2, for example, people are young, whatever. What are you, 7 or 8 years old? Grade 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lots of people had glasses, so they needed them. Some people couldn't see without them. So back then, you might say, well, there's less because of the stress we put on our lives. I don't know about it. I don't know if there was less. And if there was still a significant part of the population. I mean, it's written about, right? It's written about. A lot of people couldn't see that well. So a lot of people would have been walking into shit or not even been able to do, like Shakespeare, I'm guessing, could see okay because he's writing shit down and remembering it. If he just had a little bit worse eyesight, which his fucking brother or his classmate might have had, then we'd never have Shakespeare. We would like, not that everybody I'm talking to is like gung-ho about Shakespeare. I'm just saying a lot of people wouldn't have been able to see shit. Now, even less people would have had dental, right? So, and I'm not saying just losing your teeth through sweets. You might say, well, Terry, there's more shit that we're eating right now, not actual shit. Bad food. There's lots of human sugar causes cavities and things that we, and with our processed foods and everything else gets in our teeth. And that's why we lose our teeth. Fine. Maybe. There still would have been people losing their teeth. There's still natural sugars that get in there and you would still have cavities and everything else. But outside of that, think of how many people like myself have lost teeth. Think how many little girls and boys at recess go out and fucking playing hopscotch or some shit when their big teeth just grew in, like grade 4 or 5 or 6 or something, and boom, they lose a couple of chiclets. Well, back then, those stay out. There's examples of people putting in like a wooden fake one, but it's really for eating purposes. There's cosmetically, well, how are you going to replace a fucking tooth? Now we put porcelain in there, drill a fucking thing up into your face, put a porcelain tooth over it. We're all good, or all kinds of other materials. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. So there would have been a lot of people and a lot of like kings and queens and princes and princesses that you look at a movie and they all look, I mean, Troy's Brad Pitt, right? Like all these people that are, Cleopatra, there's everybody from Elizabeth Taylor. I don't know who else, but Elizabeth Taylor. A lot of people have portrayed Cleopatra one way or the other. She's always beautiful, right? Always beautiful, wearing jewelry. And who knows? She could have lost a chiclet. The odds are every few people would have had many teeth gone, right? And would have been walking into fucking buildings and shit. But you never see that. Now, that's just 2 easy examples that I can think of. And I can fucking guarantee you that we're not portraying correctly, because a lot of people wouldn't have been able to see, and a lot of people would not have had teeth. A lot of people wouldn't have been as pretty. A lot of people would have been dirty. They often get that. Even people with money would have been dirty, a lot of them, parts often. But how do I know? There could have been all kinds of other things that we don't know about that just doesn't get passed over in history or passed on. I don't know, little things like, we have sports teams. Back then, they were probably favorite gladiators, this and that. And, not that is the be all and end all, but, little things in context. What kind of bars did they hang out? And we know they like beer, and, there's a portrayal, and just like in the Wild West, and there's a portrayal. And like, if you watch any movie on, again, I'll go to Rome because there's just a lot, or the Greeks or the Romans in the, say, 1000 BC to 1000 AD area time, right? There's a lot. And getting into the 1000 AD would be like the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, right? The plague was just coming. Genghis Khan took over the fucking world basically in like 11 or 1200. The plague killed a lot of it. But within that, there's all kinds of things that styles, materials in buildings and landscapes, food preferences. A lot of people, when they say beer, for example, like when we interpret it, we look back and like beer or wine. A lot of that was just liquid with mushrooms in it, right? A lot of way early on, and we have proof of this, was psychedelic mushrooms. So the beer that was giving people a buzz that we've interpreted as wasn't really brewed like we would do it today. It was just things in liquid that buzzed you. Not all of it. Beer did come into existence early on, and forms of wine. But a lot of that is psychedelic mushrooms, for example. So a lot of people were going around fucked up too, right? And during the plague, 12, 13, 1400s, during all of that, right, during the plague, a lot of people, like kids included, were drinking beer because the beer was fermented and went through a process. And people were drinking water out of the rivers, and there was dead bodies in the rivers, and they just realized they were just drinking the plague. But they didn't know why. But whenever they would drink beer or something processed, wine or whatever, something with alcohol in it, right, that kills a lot of the bacteria. Those people were living. So people wanted to protect their families. It just became normal, right? 7-year-olds, 3-year-olds, get up, have your food, and fucking wash it down with beer. And that was happening. And that's not ever portrayed really. Like, people often skip over that. But kids were drinking beers for lots of time. Coffee came in after that and made a huge dent in the world and kind of sobered people up, which led to a lot of things. The the scientific revolution, the Renaissance, right? Look into that, the history of coffee, when it came about, the timing of it. Anyway, so that's why I'd want a time machine, because I think we're missing a lot of the fucking finer details that we should know, that we just don't know, that we never will. In this day and age, you would think we would have better information because there's more means to it. Alexander the Great said, he tried to bring the best library in the world to his people. And now we have the Alexander Library in our hand times 10. And it seems that we're stupid. We're more stupid than ever. But I guess it's whatever information you choose to believe and you choose to follow. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm one step away from that. But what I am here to tell you is that we're doing fine. Most people in Newfoundland are fine with the restrictions. And the quicker we all work together, the quicker it's out of the way. What would I like for all of you that asked? As a superpower, it would be, I'll reiterate, a time machine. Folks, if you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, or Labrador, and you would like to visit George Street, why not go to Trinity Pub, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, the Martini Bar, Green Sleeves, and of course the Bull and Barrel. If you would like, go for a bite to eat. Why not loose tie? Why not blue on water? Why not Wedgwood Cafe? We also do catering. Crown Cabinets, just because. Carpet Factory, laying the carpet for your community. GS Construction, laying the groundwork for your community, if that community happens to be Edmonton, Alberta. 2 locations for Mr. Lube, right here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and Labrador. One's on Torby Road, one's on Cameron Road. Live, love, love! Ryan Power, power conditioning, strength and balance for the body and mind. On Rope Walk Lane, look no further than Power. Ryan, power conditioning. True Hockey, take what's yours. Mugsy Jeans, I loves me Mugsy Jeans. Thanks to everybody for listening. I'll be here tomorrow for your listening pleasure with Billy Badman McGuigan. Thanks for listening, folks. Back in just a couple of days. Catch you on the rebound.